My parents texted me 3 hours before their anniversary gala. Don't come. Only elites are invited. Elites. I stared at the word like it had teeth. I paid their mortgage when Dad's dealership collapsed. I covered Mom's surgery when insurance wouldn't. I co-signed the loan that saved their house. And now I wasn't elite enough for their party? Stick with me, because what happened next wasn't just embarrassing. It exposed a betrayal I never saw coming. And by the end of that night, my parents were the ones wishing I hadn't shown up. I was already dressed when the text came in. A navy suit I only wore for court meetings and big contracts. It still felt strange on my shoulders. I build office parks and warehouses for a living. Most days I'm in boots, not polished shoes. The gala was for their 35th anniversary. Big country club. Catered dinner. Live band. I helped pay for most of it, even though they told everyone it was a private celebration. I called my mom, Patrice. She answered on the third ring. Sweetheart, it's just a curated event, she said quickly. Very specific guest list. Curated? I asked. I'm your son. It's about image, she replied. Your father is trying to attract certain people. I hung up and called my dad, Roland. It's investor optics, Callan, he said. You wouldn't understand. It's a room full of executives. I run a company, I said. I employ 40 people. There was a pause. Construction is different, he said finally. It's not exactly boardroom material. That was when it clicked. They weren't embarrassed by my money. They were embarrassed by how I made it. I didn't argue. I didn't text back. Instead, I made one quiet phone call to a man named Leland Dorsey. He's a private equity partner who once offered to invest in my company. He answered cheerfully. Looking forward to tonight, he said. Yeah, I replied. Quick question. How do you know my parents? There was silence. Then he said, Your father told me I helped fund your family's recovery. My grip tightened on the phone. You didn't. I know, Leland said. That's why I was confused. They hadn't just disinvited me. They had erased me. So I changed my tie, grabbed my keys, and decided I would attend the gala after all. Just not as their SON.name. The hallway felt too small for the words Leland had just said. Your father showed me documents, he continued quietly. He mentioned a family trust. Said he moved the remaining equity there to protect assets. A trust? I asked. He never told me about a trust. Leland gave me a careful look. He spoke like it was already handled. Clean and secure. My stomach tightened. Clean and secure usually meant complicated and hidden. I stepped farther down the hall and pulled out my phone. I called my attorney, Bryce Holland. He answered on the second ring. Bryce, I need you to check something right now, I said. The refinance on my parents' house. Am I still attached? There was a pause while he typed. I could hear papers moving. You're still on the original refinanced mortgage, Bryce said slowly. Primary cosigner. I thought we adjusted that 2 years ago. No. Roland said he would handle a transfer, but it was never completed. My throat felt dry. What about a trust? Yes, Bryce replied. There's a Mercer family trust. It holds the remaining equity in the property. So he protected the equity, I said, but not the debt. Another pause. Callan, Bryce said carefully, if your father defaults, the bank comes after you. I closed my eyes for a second. Music drifted from the ballroom. Laughter. Glasses clinking. Has he applied for anything recently? I asked. Yes. 2 loan inquiries this month. Both tied to the property value. Behind my back. I thanked Bryce and ended the call. My reflection stared back at me from a gold-framed mirror. Suit. Tie. Polished shoes. Silent guarantor. I walked back to Leland. He's using the house again, I said. Trying to leverage it. Leland nodded. Tonight is a signal. He wants investors to see stability. Long marriage. Strong family. Solid home. The gala wasn't a celebration. It was bait. If he secured new loans or outside money and something failed, the debt would fall partly on me. My credit. My company. Everything I built. They didn't just leave me off the guest list. They left my name on the risk. I looked through the ballroom doors. My father was shaking hands like a man who owned the room. My mother smiled beside him, proud and polished. They were gambling again. And this time, they put my name on the table without asking me. I stepped back into the ballroom. My mother saw me first. Her smile froze in the middle of a laugh. The woman she was speaking to kept talking, not noticing. Patrice set her glass down too quickly and walked toward me, heels clicking fast against the floor. "What are you doing here?" she whispered sharply when she reached me. "You're making a scene." "I just walked in," I said calmly. "How is that a scene? You weren't invited." "I'm their son," I replied. "Why are guests being told I couldn't make it?" Her jaw tightened. "This isn't the place." "Seems like the perfect place," I said quietly. "My father noticed us and came over, face already red." "I told you not to come," Roland said under his breath. "And I asked why," I answered. "Why tell people I'm busy? Or still figuring things out?" His eyes flicked around to see who was listening. A few guests nearby had gone quiet. Music still played, but the air around us felt thinner. "It's about presentation," Roland hissed. "You wouldn't understand." "I understand mortgages," I said. "And surgeries. And co-signing loans." Patrice grabbed my arm lightly. "Lower your voice. I'm not raising it." A couple standing near us pretended to study the banner, but were clearly listening. Just then, Leland walked over with an easy smile. "Callan," he said warmly, loud enough to carry. "I was hoping you made it. I've been meaning to congratulate you. 40% growth this year, right?" Several heads turned. Roland stiffened. "Leland, we were just—" "And the way you stabilized your parents' situation," Leland continued, nodding at me. "Impressive work. Not many sons could pull that off." The silence around us spread. A woman near the bar said, "I thought Leland's firm funded the recovery." Leland shook his head gently. "No, that was Callan." All eyes moved to my father. Roland's face drained of color. Patrice forced a small laugh. "Well, it was a family effort," she said quickly. "We all supported each other. I transferred the mortgage payments directly," I said, still calm. "And I covered the medical bills. It wasn't complicated." Someone murmured, "Oh." Patrice opened her mouth, then closed it. "That's not exactly." "It's exactly," I replied. "I didn't raise my voice. I didn't insult anyone. I just told the truth." And you could feel the room shift. After the speeches ended, dinner was served in a smaller private room off the ballroom. Round tables, white tablecloths, low lighting. I took a seat near the back. I wasn't on the printed seating chart, but no one stopped me. Roland gave a short toast about vision and strong partnerships. His voice sounded steady, but he avoided looking at me. When the plates were cleared, 3 men in suits approached my table. "Callan Mercer?" one of them asked. "Yes. We've heard impressive things about your company," another said. "But your father mentioned some instability." "Instability?" I asked evenly. "He said you expanded too quickly. Took on too much debt. That you might need oversight." "Oversight." I understood then. He wasn't just protecting his image. He was positioning himself above me. If investors believed I was reckless, they would see him as the stable leader. "My company has 0 late payments," I said calmly. "All projects are on schedule. You're welcome to review our statements." The men exchanged looks. Before they could respond, Leland joined us, holding his phone in his hand. "I think you should hear something," he said. He pressed play. Roland's voice came through clearly. "Callan is talented, but he's reckless. Not exactly boardroom material. He thinks like a contractor, not an executive. I'm trying to protect the Mercer name before he damages it." The recording ended. The table went silent. One of the investors leaned back slowly. "That's different from what we've observed." Leland slipped his phone away. "I recorded the meeting because the numbers he quoted didn't match public filings." Across the room, Patrice had clearly noticed the group around me. She walked closer, trying to smile. "What's going on?" she asked lightly. One of the men replied, "We're clarifying some statements." Her eyes flicked to Leland, then to me. I could see panic rising. Roland approached, forced confidence in every step. "Is there a problem?" "No problem," I said calmly. "Just clarity." I stood up so we were eye level. "I will be removing myself from all shared liabilities," I said clearly. "Effective immediately." Roland blinked. "What does that mean?" "It means my name comes off everything connected to you. Mortgages. Guarantees. All of it." Patrice's face went pale. "Callan, don't be dramatic." "I'm not," I said. Roland stared at me, stunned. He thought I would argue. He didn't expect action. The tension from the dinner table spilled into a private office down the hall. One of the investors suggested we step somewhere quieter. Roland agreed too quickly. The office was small, with dark wood shelves and a heavy desk. The music from the ballroom was now distant and muffled. Patrice stood near the door, arms crossed tight. 2 investors remained inside. Leland leaned against the wall, silent. I took out my phone. Roland sighed loudly. Callan, this is unnecessary. I ignored him and called Bryce. I put the phone on speaker. Bryce Holland, he answered. I need to begin immediate separation from all shared financial obligations tied to Roland and Patrice Mercer, I said clearly. There was a pause. Understood, Bryce replied. Given tonight's developments, that's wise. Roland threw up his hands. Developments? This is family business. It became business when you shopped my name to investors, I said calmly. Bryce continued. Roland, your recent loan inquiries triggered alerts due to Callan's cosign status. One of the investors looked sharply at my father. Loan inquiries? Roland's voice tightened. Preliminary conversations. Nothing finalized. Bryce went on. 2 banks flagged risk exposure because Callan's company is tied as guarantor on the existing mortgage. The word guarantor seemed to hang in the air. Patrice looked at Roland. What is he talking about? Roland didn't answer. I spoke instead. He moved the remaining house equity into a trust. But he left my name on the debt. Patrice turned fully toward her husband. You said everything was protected. It is protected, Roland snapped. This is just paperwork. Bryce corrected him. It's liability. If payments fail, Callan is responsible. The investors exchanged glances. One quietly stepped back toward the door. Patrice's voice dropped, shaky now. Roland, you said we were stable. We are, he insisted. This is him overreacting. I shook my head. You tried to leverage the house again. Without telling me. Patrice stared at him. You promised me no more risks. For the first time that night, Roland looked cornered. I was securing our future, he muttered. At my expense, I said. Bryce spoke again through the phone. I'll file preliminary notice first thing. We'll start removing Callan's name. Do it, I said. Patrice stepped toward me. Please don't embarrass us like this. This is an embarrassment, I replied evenly. It's separation. Silence filled the office. And for the first time, the crack wasn't just between me and them. It was between them too. I had just stepped out of the office when my father grabbed my arm. Not here, he muttered. Come with me. He led me down a quiet hallway to the club's private study. The room smelled like leather and old books. A green banker's lamp glowed on a heavy wooden desk. The party noise was faint behind the thick door. Roland closed the door harder than necessary. You didn't have to do that, he said, turning toward me. His voice was low but shaking. Do what? I asked. Protect myself? You humiliated me. I let out a slow breath. You tried to sink my company. He ran a hand through his hair. For the first time that night, he looked older. You don't understand, he said. Then explain it. He stared at the bookshelf instead of me. I built my life a certain way. Degree. Corporate ladder. Suits. Boardrooms. His jaw tightened. You were supposed to follow that path. I build real things, I said quietly. With your hands, he snapped. You walked away from college. From everything I worked for. And still succeeded, I replied. That was when he looked at me, and I saw it clearly. That's the problem, he said. The words hung in the air. You succeeded without doing it my way, he continued. No degree. No firm. No connections I arranged. You made more in 5 years than I did in 20. So you called me unstable? I asked. He didn't deny it. I told them you were expanding too fast, he admitted. That you were reckless. Why? His voice cracked slightly. Because I didn't want you to outshine me. Silence filled the room. It wasn't about money. It wasn't about investors. It was about pride. The door creaked softly behind us. I turned. My mother stood there. She must have followed us. Roland, she whispered. Tell me that's not true. He didn't answer. Her face changed slowly, like something breaking from the inside. You risked the house for this? For our name, he said weakly. For your ego, she replied. I looked at him one last time. I spent years trying to make you proud, I said quietly. I thought if I fixed everything, you'd finally see me. He said nothing. I'm done trying, I told him. The room felt smaller somehow, and whatever was left between us cracked wide open. That be why the time I returned to the ballroom, the air had changed. Conversations that had been polite were now quiet and cautious. I could see whispers traveling from group to group, faces turning toward my parents with questioning looks. The word had spread. Roland's finances weren't as solid as he claimed. I watched a man in a sharp suit approach another guest. Did you hear? They're refinancing flagged issues, he said. I wouldn't touch their investments right now. The other guest nodded, expression tight, and walked away. A few minutes later, Two potential investors openly left the room. One stopped at the bar and shook his head at Roland. "Not a risk I want tonight," he said, slipping out without ceremony. The clinking of glasses seemed louder now, almost mocking. The polished image Roland and Patrice had worked so hard to present was fraying in real time. Patrice's smile disappeared. She stormed toward Roland, stopping in front of a small cluster of guests. "What have you done?" she demanded, her voice sharp but controlled. "You've destroyed everything. Our image, our reputation." Roland opened his mouth to speak, but the words faltered. He looked around at the witnesses, some sympathetic, some shocked. I could see the realization in his eyes that the facade he had spent decades building was crumbling. Guests began leaving early, some murmuring apologies or excuses as they passed me. I stood quietly, taking it all in. There was no need to speak. No shouting, no dramatics. The stillness carried more weight than any argument could. The room itself seemed smaller as the illusion of elite status collapsed around my parents. Leland came over and laid a hand on my shoulder. "Callan," he said, voice low but warm, "I want to make this official. My firm is ready to partner with your company. Full backing. There's just one condition. You cut all remaining ties to family liabilities." I looked at the chaos behind me, at the shaken expressions of the guests, at my parents standing stunned. It felt clean. Precise. Necessary. "I accept," I said simply. Leland nodded. "Good. I'll have the paperwork ready." For the first time that night, I felt the weight lift. The gala continued around me, but it was no longer theirs to control. The celebration, the image, the legacy, it was all falling apart. And I was standing outside of it, clear and untangled, finally free from the cost of their pride. The office was quiet when Bryce handed Roland the documents. The preliminary notice of liability removal sat heavy in the folder. A small stack of papers, but a mountain of meaning. Roland's hands trembled slightly as he read through it, the confident composure from the gala nowhere to be found. "You can't," he muttered, voice low. "Without Callan, the refinancing, it won't work. The banks, they'll—" "Roland," Bryce said evenly, "the liability is being removed. He's no longer responsible for any of this." Roland ran a hand over his face, the color draining. "The house," his voice caught. "We may have to sell." The words hung in the air. Patrice stepped back, eyes wide, lips pressed tight. I heard her phone vibrate in her hand. She glanced at it, then answered with a shaky, "Hello?" "Callan." Her voice trembled. Is this revenge?" I leaned back in my chair, arms crossed. "No. This is boundary," I said quietly. "I'm done carrying liabilities that aren't mine." She swallowed hard. "But you've always helped us." "I have," I replied. "But that doesn't mean I have to keep doing it at the cost of my company, my credit, my future." There was a pause, and then her voice broke. I need to tell you the truth. It wasn't just the gala. The invitations. The stories. We excluded you because people in our social circle, they looked down on tradesmen. They thought working with your hands wasn't worthy of our image." The words landed with a weight I hadn't expected. I could hear the shame in her tone, the fear that I'd see her as cruel, not hurt. "You mean it wasn't about money?" I asked softly. "It was pride," she admitted. I thought I had to fit in. I didn't see how it hurt you." I leaned back, letting it sink in. For years, I thought they were just asking for help, just being distant in ways that were financial or practical. But the depth of their shame, the way they measured me against their world, hit me now. I finally understood. They weren't just embarrassed by my work. They were ashamed of me for who I was, even when I saved them. "I see," I said finally. "That's enough explanation. I'm not reattaching my name." Silence followed. It was not angry, not loud. It was final. And in that quiet, I felt the last thread of their control over me snap. Weeks later, I stood at the edge of a dusty construction site, hard hat on, looking over the framework of what would be my largest commercial development yet. Steel beams rose into the clear sky, cranes moved with precise rhythm, and the smell of fresh concrete filled the air. The sound of machines mixed with the quiet chatter of a small crowd gathered for the groundbreaking ceremony. Leland stepped up to the microphone, smiling at the group. "It's my pleasure to officially announce a full investment partnership with Callan Mercer's company," he said. Applause broke out, steady and confident. People I had seen at the gala months ago were here too, some now shaking my hand, others nodding as they watched the ceremony. Their earlier assumptions about family prestige had clearly shifted. A man in a gray suit, Someone I recognized from the country club leaned over to me later. "So, where were you during your parents' anniversary?" he asked casually, as if it had always been his curiosity to satisfy. I smiled slightly and wiped some dust from my sleeve. "Building something that's actually mine," I said, calm and clear. The words felt good. Honest. No need to explain more. The ceremony continued. Shovels dug into the ground, laughter and applause ringing out. I watched crews move with efficiency, the project already taking shape before my eyes. It wasn't glamorous like a gala, but it was mine. Every beam, every brick, every dollar invested reflected the work I had put in, the risks I had taken, and the boundaries I had finally drawn. I thought of my parents. Roland and Patrice sold the house quietly weeks ago. No announcements, no social speeches, no attempts to reclaim status. Their world had moved on, but it no longer included me financially or emotionally. I didn't feel triumph or glee, just relief. Distance had been established, and it was necessary. The revenge, if it could even be called that, wasn't dramatic or explosive. It was structural. I removed myself from their liabilities, reclaimed my name, and built something that stood on its own. They wanted elites only. Guests, appearances, carefully curated images. They forgot who built the foundation. And now I was standing on it. Solid. Independent. Unshakable. The sun hit the steel beams, reflecting light across the site. I held the shovel, paused, and smiled. For the first time in years, I felt completely in control of what I had created. And no one could take that away. If you found Callan's story compelling, take a moment to reflect on setting boundaries and protecting your financial and emotional well-being. Learn how to separate personal and family liabilities, recognize toxic dynamics, and build independent success. Knowledge and preparation today can prevent betrayal from turning into lasting consequences tomorrow.